Right now, we want to get you back to some breaking news from Syria, where a rebel group with Al-Qaeda-linked militants are warning residents of a Christian village, quote, convert to Islam or face beheading. These rebels have grabbed control of a series of ancient Christian holy sites in the city of Malula, just outside the Syrian capital. Leland Vittert has obtained video that has never been seen on television of these jihadi fighters giving tours of the conquered sites. He joins us now live from our Mideast Bureau with this very, very difficult turn of events in Syria. Leland?
Exactly, Martha. We've already heard that there have been some executions inside Malula, and they are very strategically important villages that the Syrian army has now lost control of. And keep in mind that the jihadis who have taken over these villages, the rebels, have very strong links to Al-Qaeda syndicate groups. So not only do they view the Christians inside, some of the nuns and some of the monks, as heretics, but also as traitors for supporting President Assad's regime. Once a picturesque pilgrimage site home to centuries-old monasteries, Malula and its history are now the latest victims in Syria's sectarian civil war. One nun said she hid the local orphans in a cave before rebels overran the city's main churches. Now we are in front of this church, and the families of Malula are here and safe. God is great, said a rebel from the back of his pickup. Clearly jubilant rebels gave a video tour of one convent, pockmarked with holes from artillery and filled with shrapnel. These pictures were taken before reports of jihadist rebels lighting the churches ablaze and destroying the religious symbols inside. Reports indicated that most of the village's 3,300 Christians fled the fighting early on, leaving the hillside village a ghost town. But those that stayed faced an uncertain fate at the hands of increasingly extreme rebels, their ranks often filled with foreign fighters looking to turn Syria into an Islamic state. God is great, cried the rebels after a reported 1,500 fighters took the village. As one of their videos ended, automatic weapons fire pierced the air. That is the Assad regime firing on the village, explained the photographer. It is too early to tell right now if the Syrian army is going to be able to retake this village, but the brutality of the rebels and also their jihadist leanings is setting up an awful choice for a lot of folks, Martha, really between a regime and a dictator who is allegedly willing to gas his own people, or rebels and jihadists on the other side who are willing to behead those that don't give up their Christian faith. Martha, back to you. So much misery in Syria right now, and that is difficult options. What an incredible video you've brought us, Leland. Thank you very much. Such an important element in this story, what is happening in those Christian communities in Syria right now. So meanwhile, you've got new negotiations today over Syria after the president turns to Russia and the UN Security Council, where we were told at one point that was completely a dead end. Apparently it is no longer that way. New polls show that the Syrian crisis, though, could be damaging the president. The chart that you see dates back to June the 10th, when 47% of Americans were split on his job performance. Compare that to today. He has a 51% disapproval number and 43% approve. That is not the number that the West Wing would like to see at this point. Chris Stirewalt, Fox News digital politics editor and host of Power Play on foxnews.com live. Chris, these have to be tense times within the administration, given what they're seeing with these numbers and all of the charges of incoherence on this foreign policy.
Well, and the two are a vicious cycle. They feed on each other because Vladimir Putin knows, for example, that the president was bluffing when he said that he was thinking about getting congressional approval for a strike on Syria. There was no way. It was very evident, even before the president came out to retract it last night, that Congress was going to authorize this. There was just no way. So the weaker the president is at home politically, the weaker he is as he tries to gain authorization and approval from Putin for moving ahead with securing these chemical weapons. So weakness begets weakness, and the numbers just keep dropping.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Putin sequence of events, and you think back to the fact that he called our Secretary of State, John Kerry, a liar. He said John Kerry is a liar. Days later, the president was off to the G20. And I remember speaking with John Bolton in that time period, and he said, look, in his opinion, when your Secretary of State has been called a liar, you don't, shake hands with that person the next day. He encouraged the president not to even attend the G20, and I'm sure John Bolton had no illusions that the president was going to take him up on that idea, but that's what he believed. This Putin thing, Chris, is extremely undermining in many ways, is it not?
Well, if you think about it this way, one of the lodestars of American foreign policy for generations has been not to be supplicant to Russia, to avoid being in a position where the Russians can make any demand of us. And this was true in the Soviet era. This is true now. We may do deals with them, but generally being in a subordinate position to them and needing their say-so to go ahead is a place that Americans have assiduously tried to avoid, as we see the interplay with Russia and Iran, potentially arming Iran, as we see them bringing Syria in as their client state, protecting the Assad regime and entrenching them. The president finds himself, in order to try to solve a domestic political situation, getting himself in hock to Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, and it appears, as you just point out, that Putin feels very emboldened by the things that have taken place over the last several days, to the point where, as you just mentioned, they're selling these S-300s, I believe they're called, big surface-to-air missiles to Iran with no excuses or no apologies to anybody on that front. So it's clear that they are arming our enemies, and they're, intensifying that effort, right?
Well, why not? And it's good politics for Putin at home. Just as this is bad politics for the president here in Washington and across the country, it's good politics in Russia for Vladimir Putin to be flouting the United States and trying to embarrass the American president. But the President Obama got himself in a jam because he decided not to strike Syria, wanted Congress to be complicit in the unpopular airstrikes, and Putin pounced.
Yeah. Chris, lots to think about. Thank you so much for weighing in. We'll see you next time. So remember that you can get the latest developments on the crisis in Syria from Washington and around the globe. Visit foxnews.com/Fox News First and sign up for our daily Fox First note. Simply put your email in and hit the sign up button, and you'll start receiving those emails. Really helpful as you move through the day to get updated on a very fast moving situation.